This is a special update with Rick Joyner and Lieutenant General Retired W.G. Jerry Boykin.
Welcome to Prophetic Perspectives on Current Events. And we've got some critical current events to talk about today. And we've got a very special guest with us, General Jerry Boykin, retired Lieutenant General, 3-star General, former, you were part of the Delta Force when it stood up, went on to command it through some of its great actions. And of course, then you were in the intelligence community for a few years. And you were in a place really to understand what's going on in the world, I think, put there and given an understanding. Maybe few people in the whole world would have your perspective. And we have critical events happening in our day. I just wanted to get your perspective on. Right. We've been talking about the Iran treaty. And share with us your views on that. You have actually read this treaty.
Right. Yeah.
And tell us what you think of this thing.
Well, to begin with, Rick, let me say I'm glad to be with you here, and you have such an important task here and such a broad audience that it's a pleasure to be able to address some of these issues. I'm glad you said treaty, because that's exactly what this is. It's a treaty, and it falls very clearly under our Constitution as a treaty, and it should be treated as such, which means that 2/3 of the Senate should ratify that treaty. But that's not what we're doing. So first of all, we've subverted our Constitution in the way that this is being handled through this thing called the Corker-Cardin Amendment, which is just a total subversion of our Constitution. Now, that said, remember that when President Obama and the administration went into these negotiations, they went in saying very clearly, and you can find it on YouTube many, many times, that no deal was better than a bad deal, which was their way of saying we will not allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. And in fact, they actually said that. We have now reached a point where we've agreed to a situation that will not only allow them, but it will actually create a pathway for Iran to have a nuclear weapon. There are multiple things that the average American citizen should focus on. One is the fact that 4 Americans are being held by Iran, and they were never part of the negotiations. In other words, in my view, if we were going to do any kind of discussions, we should have said, let's put these Americans on the table up front. Let's deal with that issue. You let our Americans go, and then we'll talk about nuclear weapons.
Yeah, they got to show some kind of good faith.
Right. That was never part of the negotiations. So I think that that's a major issue. But the second thing is, we've gone from no nukes for Iran to a pathway for Iran to get a nuclear weapon. They're keeping about 6,500 centrifuges. The only thing they need centrifuges for is to enrich uranium to the weapons grade level. They have uranium now, maybe for as many as 7 warheads, that would allow them to build those warheads if they enrich it from the 20% level to weapons grade, which is only a 60 to 90-day process. To fire up the Bushehr reactor would take 200,000 centrifuges, so they don't need centrifuges to fire up any of their nuclear power.
Obvious not for that.
No. So 6,500 will allow them probably 1 warhead at a time to enrich it to weapons grade. The other thing, though, is that they are getting about $150 billion once the sanctions are lifted and frozen assets are released to them. $150 billion going into a regime that has been the world's largest sponsor of terrorism. And even our own State Department has said that for years. So where is that money going? It's going to a couple of places that we should be very concerned about. Hamas and Hezbollah, 2 terrorist organizations that are sworn to destroy our allies Israel. But the other thing is that is going to be used, a portion of it, to buy the most modern missile technology, which means we've given them a pathway to a nuclear warhead, and we're giving them the money to go buy new missile technology that would ultimately allow them to build systems that could deliver that warhead into Europe as well as into the United States even.
Yeah, that's Netanyahu made that clear. He says, look, we're on the same continent as them. They don't need intercontinental ballistic missiles to hit us. These are to hit somebody else.
That's right.
What is this? We can't help but think, what kind of madness is going on to give this kind of $150 billion, give them the pathway to make nuclear weapons to people that are absolutely sworn to destroy Israel, our ally, and to us. Absolutely. They're still saying that. Even after this treaty, they're still saying they're going to destroy the U.S. and Israel, and we're making... What would possess a person to give them these abilities to do this to us? What would possess our Congress to allow this to happen in a very unconstitutional way? Why, we're the leaders.
Well, I don't want to have to try and speak for this administration, because there are a lot of things they do that I don't understand, that don't make sense to me. I believe there is a level of naivete associated with these negotiations. I really believe that the Obama administration and those people that he has surrounded himself with are very naive about the ultimate intentions of Iran. Now, some of them don't understand the 12er theology, for example. Mm-hmm. They believe that even a nuclear-armed Iran can be contained because we contained the Russians during the Cold War. What that means is that they don't really understand the theology of the mullahs of Iran, the Supreme Council. The president in Iran is not really in charge. Mm-hmm. It's the Supreme Council with the Grand Ayatollah, Ali Khamenei, and they're all Shia 12ers. Mm-hmm. They believe that their Messiah will only return in an atmosphere of bloodshed and chaos, global bloodshed and chaos. Is there a better way for them to create the bloodshed and chaos that would stimulate the return of their Messiah? When in their theology, when he comes back, he will implement global Sharia or Islamic law. Is there a better way to create that bloodshed and chaos than to use a nuclear weapon, particularly against Israel? When people think that you can contain a nuclear Iran, they are demonstrating that they either know nothing about the theology of the mullahs, or they don't care about it and don't take it seriously. They don't believe that it's real. Mm-hmm. They think it's a pseudo religion or something.
And what about this allowing the Iranians to use their own inspectors to verify they're complying with the... What kind of bizarre madness is this?
Well, now think about this. I mean, none of us would do that. None of us would let a person do their own drug test, for example.
Yeah, let the fox count the hens.
Right.
Yeah.
But when John Kerry came back from these negotiations, and what he said was, well, there was another deal. There was a side deal, but it was between the Iranians and the International Atomic Energy Agency, which is the watchdog inspection agency. It's not regulatory. It's not enforcement. It's basically an inspector. And they cut a side deal, but we're not part of that. Well, it got leaked. Now, what did we find out when it was leaked? It's just what you just got through saying. We found out they're going to do their own inspections.
Yeah, this is shocking.
I mean, Rick, this is beyond bizarre. It is beyond incredible that we would even consider doing that to someone that has not only the capabilities, ultimately the capabilities, but the motivation to destroy us and our allies. And this is worse than Neville Chamberlain in 1938 or whenever it was. Peace in our time.
And how is our Congress allowing this to happen? This is supposed to be a Republican-controlled Congress. I can't understand how our administration would ever negotiate something this silly. I mean, it's making Trump statements about our negotiators verifying, but this is putting the whole world at risk. Certainly the Middle East. Certainly we know there's going to be a major arms race in the Middle East. Saudis are going to be threatened. They're going to have to get their own bomb. The other nations, Egypt, all these are feeling threatened now by Iran being able to strike them with their missiles.
Right.
This is unbelievable, the instability this one treaty is going to create in the world. And we're going to be right back to talk some more about this with General Boykin.
On TV, online, on the go, and on your iPad. Tune into Prophetic Perspectives with Rick Joyner, always available on MorningStarTV.com.